go ahead and introduce yourself quickly for those who weren't with us in the previous session.
Yeah, my name is Ryan Lonsdale. I'm a customer consultant. I work with school districts and schools, primarily on the West Coast.
And my name is Brian Ladd, and both of us were teachers, as all TCI folks were. And I pretty much specialize in K through 5 elementary science and also K-1-2 social studies as we go through, train nationally here, and social studies a lot in California as we go through. So I'm really excited to work with you with Teachers Curriculum Institute and talking about science investigations, time saving. If you wouldn't mind really quickly putting in the chat, what's your number one frustration with doing investigations? Number one frustration with doing investigations. Setting up materials and setup time. Clean up. Oh yeah, clean up. Running out of time, having times. Excellent, excellent. Limited time for science, my science block. Having to, nothing worse than stopping partway through an actual investigation. Attention span. Excellent. Excellent. All right, sweet. Those are great. And those were not unexpected questions at all, answers in there. And that's one of the reasons I did this last year and I'm doing it again this year. Following directions. I tend to have that same issue with adults as well as the kids, but investigations, it's critical there. Oh, rotating classrooms. Samantha, a science expert, science specialist slash expert there. So excellent. Thank you for putting that in there. I appreciate your participation. Just quick housekeeping. If you have a specific question, Ryan, he does a lot of things, but he's the great tech and problem solver. We've worked together a lot here. Yes, you are. If you have general questions for everybody, put it in the chat. But if you have a specific question like, where did my program go? It just disappeared. Ryan can help you as well
If you
as
have a
any.
question, use the Q&A, and then the chat will just be for comments for the whole group. But if you have specific questions for Brian or myself, please use the Q&A because that's what I'll be monitoring.
Next. Thank you. So what I'm going to be covering today, and hello, April from New Jersey. I'm going to be covering the key concepts that should not be missed in your units and lessons, how to prepare for lessons, and sharing. And I'd like you also to share your best practices. We listed a lot of the frustrations we had, but we also, number one thing I do is when I train teachers is talk about other teachers' best practices because teachers are the best teachers, as we know, as we go through here. So I have created a form, a list. There's a QR code there about hands-on lessons and bring science alive. And what I mean by hands-on lessons, where do I have to go into a materials kit? One of the things teachers say is like, how do I know if there's an actual investigation that requires materials? How do I know if it's just using the picture cards or we're doing observing videos? So what I did is I took each of the lessons for each grade level and those particular lessons, excuse me, that actually have you go into the materials kits, I've broken them down by grade level and by unit as you go through. So it's kind of a cheat sheet for you. So feel free to snap on the QR code. Ryan will put, you can put the bit.ly in the chat. Actually, what I will do is I will drop that in the chat for you because I forgot to tell Ryan to do that ahead of time. So you can see here's the different grade levels, which lessons have hands-on investigations from materials kits themselves there. Okay, I'm going to assume that everybody's there. If not, you can ask us to
I
re.
added the bit.ly as well, Brian, so
Awesome.
it
Thank
should
you.
be good on both fronts.
All right, let's dive in. And we'll come back to a few other things that I have for you, but let's dive in. I'm going to go into a third grade, kind of split down the middle here. If you're with me last time, I was in second. I like to move around as we go through. Um, and by the way, just a couple of things. I showed it, some others will show it just to make sure. If you have feedback for us, please feel free to click on the question mark. And I'm also giving you time to log into your own um, program if you're not already. Most of you are. And then click on feedback and then let us know, be specific which program. It might be a specific investigation, et cetera. You might say, you have 22 materials listed here and I'm only using one. Am I doing something wrong? What's happening here? Or I see an error here. Or hey, here's a great suggestion for you as you walk through in there. We also, if there's something new, it'll pop up here. I will show you this because it's new. I'm not sure if you saw in your last session, those with me did, about our new translation tool that's available. That's also going to help to speed things up as you're going through with a lot of our students are not English first language students there. Okay. So here is our homepage, third grade. And I'm going to look at Unit 2, Forces in Motion. And I'm going to look at the overview of the forces in motion. And again, as I tell everybody, and I'm going to play this even though it's not about how do we do it, but I'm going to play this video that sets up the entire unit.
Hi, my name
Sure.
is Deb. I want to tell you about my weekend at the carnival. There are so many rides and games. First, I went on a swing ride. I didn't know what to expect. It lifted me off the ground and spun slowly. Then it spun quickly. The faster the ride went, the higher I swung. It makes me wonder, what makes me move in these different ways? And what made the ride spin around? Let's explore these questions and figure out how carnival games work. You'll also use magnets to design a new game.
Okay, so the reason I show you that because one, we set up the whole scene for what our unit's going to be. And obviously you have your performance expectations, your phenomena, anchoring phenomena for the whole unit, a swing, ride, spin, slow, and then fast. The faster the ride spins, the higher the rider's swing 3D. As I go down in the orange box again, and I apologize if this is redundant for some of you, that we talk about the unit highlights. We emphasize what our students should know. One of the big questions we have is there are so much information. I saw a 45-minute block per week, 245. I have 60 minutes. I have 90 some weeks, 30 others. Some of you are lucky you have 30 minutes every day. And so how do I fit this all in while balancing everything else I'm trying to do in my elementary classroom? So we talk about what to know, what we should make sure our students look at, and then, very importantly, what not to miss. There are a lot of components, there's a lot of investigations, but make sure you really focus on what not to miss. Okay. And by the way, I have a summary Padlet for this that I'll show you the link later on. So it's all going to be on that Padlet so you can look at these highlights as you go through, because I know it's hard to take notes and look and observe at the same time. So what not to miss and what the students should know. The 3D progressions, walk through that, that's fine. Explaining the anchoring phenomena, a lot of teachers like to do this ahead of time. But most important on this unit for time-saving tips is what should I know? What should my students know? Sorry. And what do I need to make sure they do not miss as they go through? Another key factor that I always mention is that our lessons and units are flexible. You Often I go into classrooms where they only could do 2 units out of the 4 or 2 units out of the 3, depending on which grade level you're at, or maybe 3 units out of 4. And they're like, I would like to do this unit and then this unit, but I need to go unit 1, 2, 3, 4. You do not. You can go in any order you want. You do not have to teach every lesson either. So as you're going through, again, the first year or two of science, it's like, what do I do? How do I teach it? And we're always evaluating and changing things as we walk through to fit with our classes. But remember, flexibility is key, and that's really, really important to us as we walk through. Down below, you saw her with her um, the swing, the ride, etc. That's part of our performance assessment. We enter the unit and we talk about the unit. And then what we do is we have a performance assessment. And I'm showing this, actually doing a middle school version of this. So if you're in the middle school, my fingers move so fast sometimes. I'm going to shut that up. And the performance assessment, come on, sorry. It's right here. And this performance assessment is a summary assessment of the entire unit. So instead of doing an objective exam or taking time to do a lot of formative and summative exams, you could also do the performance assessment. And this performance assessment, it ties back to the original video. I'll blow this up a whole page so you can see the whole thing. And then we show the video and we ask our students, before you learn the performance assessment, we're going to go revisit the anchoring phenomena we saw before. So they'd watch the video again and then review the unit's anchoring phenomena. A ride swings slow, as it goes faster, it gets higher. And then we ask our students to do claim evidence and reasoning with this. And again, as I showed some of the others, we have examples of the CER for you because sometimes it's not always to do. But at the end, we ask our students to create something. They're creating something and they're creating the magnets, as you heard her talk about, a carnival game. And so they're creating something that summarizes everything that they've learned. Do they have to have done each one of the lessons to do this? They do not. But we're, again, with this performance assessment, we're looking at criteria and constraint. We're looking at questions because this is about forces and magnetic and electric forces. What are cause and effect relationships, which is our CCCs and DCIs. And then they're going to create something. They're going to build some engineering in there. So this kind of takes everything they learned and do a summary. It takes about an hour, so it could be probably 2 sessions for your students to go through. But a good way to assess your students without having to take a lot of extra time to do that. Where does that fall? It's in my unit overview and it's under performance assessments. You could also look under projects and it will be right there under projects too as you go through. Okay. Questions on the unit and how I can kind of tidy the unit up, make it a little bit quicker.
Nothing so far on the unit,
Okay.
Brian.
Let's go to the lesson overview. So lesson overview on the left. Again, I can get to a lesson here by clicking on a green button. In this particular one, I am going to click on the first lesson. What do forces do? And one of the things about this is as we walk through the investigation slideshow, which I'll walk through for you, there's a number of steps. Wherever you see an extension, that is something in addition to. A lot of teachers think, oh, I've got to do all the extensions. That's up to you. Sometimes they're really worth doing, sometimes they're not, up in your class, based on your class. But we have our observing phenomena, playing catch. When a ball is thrown, some cans fall, others do not. You can show a video of this. You can very quickly, I did a styrofoam ball and I have plastic cups and I have kids throw it, or I would do it in front of the class to demonstrate. One of the suggestions that teachers often say, I don't have time for all my students to do this investigation. So we will do it whole class. I will do it in the front and I'll bring students up to do it. Ideally, our students are hands-on, our students are engaged, they're all at their own stations, but sometimes we just need to do it. Hey, let's do a teacher-led, teacher whole class there. That's the whole observing phenomena. It's pretty quick. You have the video, and then we have observing videos. As you know, you don't have to show all the different videos. You can pick a couple in there. You could live demo some of these things as you walk through. Again, I'm going pretty quick through this. And then the vocabulary, my science concepts, reading. Reading in GSS is not mandatory. It is not necessary to go through. A lot of us like to have our students read to reinforce or to practice those ELA skills. So when I go to the reading, click on here, and I did that fast, I know, and I've shown some of you this. I hit green button, action, read, and I'm going to blow this up so it's whole. Let's say I'm doing this whole class. And as I look at the reading itself, I may want my students to do more of a fast read. So I could highlight the main ideas and my students, because if I ask them to read this, it's going to take some of my students 20 to 30 minutes just to read if I'm having them read. So maybe I'll just have them do a quicker read by having them highlight the main ideas, or I show the main ideas to my class. So you have that option in the reading. I do want to show you one new feature. I'm not sure if people have shown this to you today. We have a new button. If I highlight this new button, and I'm showing you time-saving tips because of the amount of languages in our classrooms that can really weigh us down as far. So I see this button in the middle. I highlight anything I highlight. I can then, I'll go with Arabic. There'll be a pop-up that translates and it'll be AI. And so you see that there's going to be approximately 100 languages. These are the languages that are available. It will not change the whole platform. It only changes the reading, unlike the Spanish, which changes almost everything. You highlight, and then you can pick which language. Let's go check.
South Pohebo.
And so it will read to them in AI there. So it just came out Monday. We knew it was coming, and all of a sudden, boom, it's there. And you're notified right under here that, hey, the new translation is available. And so there's more languages coming. So hopefully that's also going to save you time because you don't have to worry as much about getting the translations going through there. Questions on that at all?
Just a reminder, if you do have specific questions, please use the Q&A. Someone asked if Ukrainian was a language, and yes, it is.
It is a language. And also, if you highlight drop down, it will show you which languages are available there. So, okay, I'm going to continue through. Again, we have each of the sections as we go through. Do you have to do all the sections? No, you don't. Again, what not to miss will help you to identify which sections you're doing. Show what you know. I always think it's really important because we need to take what we've learned, show what we know, but doing this whole class can also, or doing it in a think, pair, share, or with your buddy partners or table partners can also speed things up. And then obviously making sense of the phenomena at the end. And we bring it all back as we walk through. So that's just highlighting Brian, the investigation slideshow itself. And that investigation slideshow, you can bit piece, you can pick it, you can edit. So when you edit, you can actually pull out some of the slides so you're not showing everything to your students if you don't want to. Or you may have these incredible videos or slides you've already done and you can put them into the slideshow. You can't import it, you'd have to copy and paste there. Another way to speed up, some of you know this, some of you seen, is looking at super simple science. Super simple science is a way to do this within a 30 to 60 minute time period. And as you're looking at it, you're walking through, it'll tell you what you're going to need, what you're going to do. And I'm going to play about 2 minutes of this.
Before we get started, pause the video and gather these materials. Make sure to ask an adult to help you with your investigation.
Super simple science. Fair forces. When you play games at the fair, you use forces to move balls, beanbags, and rings. But to win a game, you have to apply a force that has just the right strength and direction. Step right up, try your luck, and win a prize. Squirt blaster race. In this game,
By the way, a couple people have asked if there is a super simple science lesson for activity for every single lesson. So every single lesson has one. And we did that because we know the time constraints. I wouldn't do super simple science every time, but it is a good way to get information across. It's a good way to get the NGSS concepts across and to, again, keep it so simple as we walk through. So great question there. Every lesson has one.
you aim a stream of water from a blaster at a target. When you hit the target, a toy horse moves along a track. The horse that reaches the end first wins. Once again, forces are key. But this time, a blaster applies the force. Before you play, watch other people play. Observe the water coming out of the blasters. Find the blaster that pushes water out with a strayer. They might not be athletes. Instead, they might be scientists who know about forces.
See for yourself. Follow the instructions to make your own observations.
And so again, this is in everyone, and they're going to design a carnival game. You notice that it's also the performance assessment had something with that. So they're going to create their own carnival game using some of the objects that we've gathered. Plan how and where it will be set up. Make sure you get your teacher's approval and then create your game. Set up the game and present it to the class and have fun. One of the things I would add is, so how do forces have an impact? I would definitely show my students about, hey, I've got this styrofoam ball, I'm throwing it at a paper cup. How did the ball have that reaction? Or I would be showing maybe the additional video in the investigation slideshow that started it out to have them observe and then move to this. So they're actually doing something, they're showing forces, they're actually creating. Talk about criteria and constraint, just like you would all the way through everything that we do. Talk about what the cause and effects are. So we're still using those same NGSS concepts there as they walk through. Questions about super simple science. Where can I find it? I'm just going to show you. I'm going to go to lesson 5. Why not? And if I go to lesson 5 and I go to the lesson overview, you'll see the super simple science is right here. So every single lesson will have that as you walk through. Questions on that? Okay.
Nothing so far. We had one about journals, but nothing
Okay.
on that super simple science.
All right. Excuse me. So I'm going to go back to the materials. One of the issues that we all have as teachers is how do I get this? How do I set it up? What do I do in order to get everything created? Because it takes me, if I have a class of 24, I've got to set 6 groups of 4 as they walk through. A lot of best practices I see with teachers, they might go ahead of time and they've got shoe boxes, or some of your kids actually have plastic containers, and you put them in smaller groups for your students to reach out, um, things for your students to grab so that you have these set up ahead of time. Other things to do with teachers, sometimes teachers, depending on your schedule, I mean, ideally, if you had it after lunch or you had the beginning of the day, but we don't always have those options there. But make sure when you're looking at the kits, you know which bag and bin, and then you could sort the materials on the side ahead of time for your students. I know a lot of you in your classroom have students who are they gather the materials, the students that put the materials away, etc. Just make sure that those materials in the end are getting back to where you originally found them. What am I saying? I see right here that when I'm exploring box 3, a grade 3, box 1, bin 1 is where I'll find the materials. Getting them back, it's common sense, but a lot of us, we're rushing to get things back as we go through. Also, if it's in a common materials bag, those materials might be used many times. So we want to make sure they get back in the bag. Again, common sense, but as teachers, we're like, okay, I got to get this back. I got to move on to my next subject, or I need to move on to art or music or something else as we walk through in there. As far as teacher materials, there's not a lot of teacher materials. We try to create those teacher materials that you already have in your classroom as you go through. Anything you need to print out ahead of time would be right here. And if you need it in Spanish, it's also right here in there. The new teacher guide, for those of you who don't have the new teacher guide, it is done. I've shown this before, but it makes your life a lot simpler to follow through versus the old lesson guide. So K-5 has the new teacher guides available in PDF for each lesson. It's broken down as you walk through. So it becomes a lot easier. Having to look at the lesson guide and looking online sometimes can be very cumbersome for us as teachers. So what we want to do is, okay, we created this so that it's broken down for you so that it's a lot easier for you to see as you walk through. And I'm going to just scan through this. There's your teacher prep, very set forward very easily. And pay attention to that teacher prep. Um, Sometimes it takes longer, but this really helps. And we've tried to put in purple anytime teachers need to do prep in there.
Brian, real quick, a few of our younger grade levels, like K through second, are saying they don't see the translation tool. I'm working with our software team. It should be available, but for like for the grade 2, for whatever reason, it's not showing. They recommend signing out and then signing in again. And then if it's still not working, submit feedback using the question mark feedback option, and our software team will work with them. But if you're not seeing it, just know it is available for everyone. And we just released this literally on Tuesday. So, there might be some problem if they're not seeing it. So I'm working with the software team right now. We did get another question also about buying kits. A teacher didn't buy the kits, so they want to know if they could just purchase the materials, through a third party and elsewhere.
Yes, you have that ability. You're not, way we have it, you can buy what you want, purchase what you want. If you have the ability to get materials yourself on the side, it's totally up to you to do that.
And then Liz wanted to just know if you could just go over again how you get to the teacher guide PDF.
Yes, excellent. So if I'm in the lesson overview And oh, by the way, I was just doing a second grade, and the second grade translation was working for me. And the accounts I'm showing you are generic that any teacher would have. So it might be if you refresh or you restart.
Yeah, our software team believes it's individual browsers. So if you do see the translation tool, fine. But if you don't, just know it's something that we're working on, and it has to do with your specific browser. So I'm in contact with our software team right now.
And they're really good. They're really good.
Yes, they are.
So there's two ways to get to the materials. One, under lesson. And when I'm in lesson, this is a small thing, but a time saving. Because I'm in lesson, I'm going to go back to the lesson I was in. Actually, I'll just stay where I am. Why mess things up? So I'm in lesson 5. If I go to materials, I'm in lesson overview for lesson 5 materials. I'm also in lesson 5, so it doesn't flip over to lesson 1 again. So I click on materials, and as I go down all the way to the bottom, you'll see a yellowish orangish dot. That dot always tells you, hey, this is new. This is relatively new. So you may see it over here on the side. You could see it here. So I went to materials. I see the teacher's guide. It's in both Spanish and English, and that will flip up. And again, it's by lesson as you walk through this in there. And so each lesson has their own one. So it's not the entire book. You can bit piece this because you're not necessarily going to do all the lessons as you walk through. So it's broken down right there. Hopefully that helps you with that. So materials, anything to print will follow under materials as well as anything that you need for an investigation. All right. All questions taken care of there?
Yeah. Just yeah, we're just having questions about the narration, and it is related to K2 because K2 has narration instead of text to speech. So they are looking into it, and it should be resolved shortly.
Usually it's a 24-hour thing. They'll get that down there. Okay. Some of the other components, if I'm looking at the overview. And as I walk through, I did show this to some people in my last session. One of the issues that teachers have is like, I'm not sure what to do because here's the investigation. I have the materials. How do I do it? So we always provide a demonstration video for
You will build electroscopes.
anything that you're actually going to do with materials kits.
Wire for the hole in the lid of your container. Bend the end of the wire into a hook. Press clay onto the wire to hold it in place. Then, make the leaves. Fold one of your pieces of aluminum foil in half. Use the template to cut 2 rounded teardrops.
Not that straightforward.
Squeeze it tightly around the wire. Draw a picture of your electroscope in your interactive student notebook.
And so this is you can show this. Somebody asked me in the last session, can I show this to my students? Yes, you can. The videos actually will often be embedded within the slides themselves too. So where did I find that? I'm under the lesson overview. And then under overview, it says demonstration video. So you can actually watch this investigation ahead of time. Just so you know, all the materials listed by the person in the video include doing the extension. So if you're not doing the extension component, which is optional, you may not use all the materials there. And so they actually list all the materials as you walk through in there. All right. So, and then also assessment options, we give you different options. You might want to do formative, you might want to do summative assessments, you might want to do a combination of both. You might want the show what you know, or excuse me, or the wrap up with the CER to be your assessment. So lots of different ways to assess as you walk through. Under procedures, again, we have the video again. So we have it in multiple places. So under overview and procedures, page numbers, etc. here. But when I go down, you'll see underneath teacher prep. And a lot of teachers go, oh, I never even saw that. But it always helps. And we ask teachers to write this for us so that we could simplify it. And so before, what do you need to do? It'll be highlighted in purple, asking you what to bring and what you need for that particular investigation there. And again, teacher prep for each one of the different investigations as you walk through. Yeah, there. Okay. Not questions, but what I want to do is I want to go back. And again, I have this time saving tips. If you're not seeing the new translation, go to the.
That was me, Brian. Yeah.
Yeah, I saw that. I just Want to make sure that they all have a chance to look at that really quick.
Yeah, if you switch from if you go to settings and then student features, if you switch from narration to text to speech, it should show the translation tool. That's what was causing it to not appear. Our software team is working on a resolution where you won't have to do that and you can keep it with narration and still see it.
So I'm going to click on this teacher tip. Ryan, if you wouldn't mind putting that bit.ly in.
Did you share that with me?
Yes, sorry.
All right, I'll do that, sure.
Thank you. Well, that's my fault for getting to show. So
Can you, I'm sorry, Brian, can you go back? I'll just take a
Yep.
screenshot of it, then type it out.
Whoops, come on. There we go.
All right, hold on 1 second. Okay, you can move on. Thanks,
All
Brian.
right, thank
I'll
you.
edit.
So if you wouldn't mind clicking on the link or using the QR code, this is going to be available for you. These are just different ways that teachers have um, that I've watched, that teachers use, that I've done for my classroom and time-saving tips. I work with a district in the Central Valley of California near Modesto, and they actually teach their entire EL program through science. And so they worked with the state to create an EL program that goes through science. Again, if you've worked with me before, I talk about them because I'm so impressed that what they said our kids are speaking for the first time. Our kids are not only speaking in English, but they're speaking in Spanish because a lot of those students were afraid to speak. And so they're using that. They're doing that K-5, where they're actually teaching science through, English through their science program. The differentiating instruction. When I go to differentiate, I'm going to click back. And over here, differentiating instruction. Again, it tells me how to do quicker coverage, how to approach my advanced learners, how to modify. Often one of the problems we have when we're teaching anything, but with science, is we have students who are reading, writing below grade level, or the English learners, et cetera, my special needs students. What can I do to make sure they have access? And it helps me to think of different ways to make this information accessible to my students there. While I'm here, I'm going to click on Enhancing Learning. And these can be some alternative forms of learning for your students. These are not part of TCI, but they're areas that we aggregate from outside. So you might want to do a FET, which is a simulation with your students. Some are built in, some are not to our program. You might want to do a virtual field trip. You might want to watch a video. You may do an additional reading. The readings we do not have embedded in our program because we don't own the copyright. If it is public, there will be a hyperlink to that, but suggested readings. And some of you say, whoa, I do this in my ELA program. So this enhancing learning are things that we aggregate from outside. And sometimes teachers will use this as an alternative, almost like super simple science in there. Jigsaw investigation stations, having your students just do one of the stations and then share out in there. I was in a class a couple weeks ago. Students said, how come we always get the boring station? And so you mix it up there. Friday fun days. You can do prep on those on the Fridays before. If you have a Friday fun day over there, do the prep and have the students ready, or even have students prepare. Super simple science enhancing learning I spoke about already. I talked about teacher-led investigations where the teacher is leading it. Look at the what not to miss. I talked about that a little bit earlier, what not to miss as I'm going through here. Look whether or not I gave you that cheat sheet, whether or not you should use the kids or not for the investigations. And then put things in smaller boxes. That way we're not overwhelmed. We have these big, gigantic white boxes of kit materials. Get them in smaller boxes so they're just more accessible. I know storage in our classroom is an issue there as we go through.
Brian, just a heads up, we have 10 minutes left.
Okay, thank you. Perfect. What I would love for you to do now, I know as teachers, we are the greatest problem solvers. We're the greatest troubleshooters. If you have a suggestion, you have an idea, you can add it to the Padlet or put it in the chat. What have you done to make investigations smoother, to make your investigations maybe even more engaging, to save time for you as a teacher? Give you a minute or two to think about it and add some info and share with your colleagues here in the chat. And it can even be what I've talked about already. So Sometimes that's great to see what I'm talking about be reinforced. All of these I've observed in classrooms. So what have you done? What participation, what collaboration with other teachers? One additional component that I was going to add, I've always placed group materials in shoebox or baskets to make things faster. Excellent, excellent. So we'll do the phenomena as a science talk. Outstanding. Brain pops, Bill Nye's. Bill Nye's are awesome. Brain pops also. You're absolutely, Jennifer, setting up ahead of time. In April, you're new, so everything is be a sponge. We like that. We split up lessons, each we prep the grade level set for 1 and 2 lessons at a time. I love that, and I've seen that often, Catherine, where one teacher will set up and do the science lesson, this particular science lesson, and the students actually might rotate to the classes themselves instead of each teacher having to set up. STEM Fridays. Oh, that's fantastic. Connect of people of history to investigations. That's so cool. Is anybody teaching their ELA through science at all? Good job, Catherine. And some of us aren't fortunate enough to have it. Some of you have certain teachers teach us math and science, and others are teaching social studies and English. Research materials cover and earn extra points. Excellent. And our kids love extra points. And by the way, Jason and others talked about research materials, cover and earn extra points. The enhancing learning can also add on to that and give students some ideas and areas to go. Science work together. ELA and science work together well. I definitely do. There's 4 specific units with benchmark that I just saw up and with wonders, and I also believe CLK, not with writing workshop and some of the others that tie directly into science. I believe it's lessons 3, 4, 8, and 10 for most of your ELA programs in there. These are great. StudyWorks articles, excellent, excellent. Lots of great feedback here. Love it. Okay, I'm going to, because we're getting short on time, I want to make sure you got things going here. So I am going to, first of all, is there anything else you'd like me to cover? Anything else you'd like me to go over? Something you need more clarification about before I leave the actual site here? Don't forget about career profiles. They're pretty cool. Okay. If you do, just say, hey, Brian, can you run this group project with presentations? So again, and I know you're probably getting this with each group, with TCI professional development, again, this professional development will walk you through for those of you who haven't seen the PD yet, and I apologize for those of you who have seen it already. The PD will help you as teachers. These are courses. You don't need to take the courses. You can just take a specific component. I want to look at just navigating and planning for my students, or just navigation, and I can just click on and I can just highlight the specific area that I want to go through, and I don't have to take the entire course. I want to plan a TCI lesson, and this would walk me through the science planning a lesson, kind of like what I did. And it's like a DIY video as you walk through that in there. Product updates, constantly giving product updates. I mean, you're going to get a new one. For those of you, most of you aren't, but if you're doing grading online, the grading program has changed. So there's a whole new under grading that has made it a lot easier for teachers. If you are using Canvas or Google Classroom, we also have those links in there and talk about product updates. Facebook group. I've seen some pretty incredible stuff where teachers are offering suggestions about how do I do this? How do I get this in the time I have? And teachers are feeding off of each other. And I love to watch that. And again, Kim, who's incredible, she monitors this, so, and as well as other TCI folks. So things are on topic, on task, and people are sharing lots of ideas because we love collaborating as teacher. And then again, on Instagram and Facebook, and on X, we're on all of those as you walk through in there. Okay, I want to show you one other component here. The assessments, and the reason I'm showing you assessments is because there's a couple things to do. One, if you're going to look at assessments, you can open up the assessments, the TCI assessment, and then you make a copy and then you edit it. But I just like to create from new. Green button is an action button for us. So I'm creating a new assessment and I'm going to look at TCI only questions. And here are all the questions themselves. And I can open it up and actually look at the questions. I can edit the questions. But one of the things that we know about taking NGSS tests, again, in California and most of the states that are represented here, it's fifth grade is the assessment testing. And most of us won't have our students get online till third, fourth, or fifth. But we need to teach our students how to take these NGS assessments. So if I look through and I'm going to I want to do a writing question, or I want to do it. Let's do this instead. I'm just clicking on, and I could sort over here if I want. NGSS lesson assessment. And what I might do is I create this assessment. So I went to assessments, create new. I'm adding this NGSS style assessment question on, and I'm going to print it or put it online and have my students work in groups. So this is what it would look like. Again, I can edit it if I want. I can change it. I can add GIFs. I can change point value. But what I want to do is I want to show this whole class. And I want my students to work on this. And so the students are looking at this and again, NGSS, they're actually doing something with the questions. So we need to teach our students how to take NGSS design questions that are three-dimensional, two-dimensional, and three-dimensional type questions. Some of these will have a built-in GIF in them or a short video as you walk through. I could also print this assessment and hand it out and have my students do it in small groups so that we walk through on how to take the assessment. One of the things I've taught, one of my sister-in-laws teaches science, and she said, oh, I gave an 8-question assessment to my third grade class, and they finished 2 of the questions because it takes longer. So build into the assessments, and that's going to save you a lot of headache and time in the end about how do I get my students to understand these assessments themselves there. Again, play with the assessments. Anything you create will be there forever as you go through. The in-app PD I talked about. And then finally, if you and you're getting this with every session, but it can't hurt to repeat it, hashtag TCI Summit will enter you Summit 25, either on Facebook or Instagram. The more you do it on each platform, you'll get entered. $100 gift card and our infamous llamas, which I have one sitting next to me on my right. And 3 lucky winners will be notified at the beginning of August that they've won, and they'll receive either the gift card or the llamas themselves, etc. And finally, the next session, we've talked about quicker tips, but they'll also be talking about top investigations K through 5. Oops, sorry. If you are both social studies and science and using social study, TCI, you can look at primary sources in your classroom, building a positive classroom environment with science. And in social studies, it's really important. We all struggle with that these days. CE and R is in the next section for science. And again, you can look at any of the social studies components too in there. And if you're one of the few middle school teachers on here, I'm also doing a performance assessment and how to use those. By the way, elementary school teachers also do performance assessment. So if you wanted to see how that does, it's kind of a unit assessment, but it'll be a middle school focus, but elementary school teachers can also use that. So any final questions, thoughts that you might have?
Not seeing any questions, Brian. I added the bit.ly link to the main lobby, so if you wanted to click on that, you can get back to it if you don't have it to join the next session.
I Again, as I always say, because it's true to my heart, I appreciate what you do. I value what you do. Keep doing it. I know sometimes it's a challenge to us, but you got it. Have a great start of your school year and don't be afraid of science. I think you're not because you're here, but don't be afraid of science. Kids love it. And I never have seen more engaged kids when they're actually doing investigations. So enjoy, have a great school year, and I appreciate you, as does Ryan.